Good morning, and this is the Introduction to Microsoft Excel Session 4, which will be our wrap-up and review of the Microsoft Excel series. What is really exciting about this is that we're going to, again, review all of the things that we kind of talked about in kind of a short form. But before we get started, we just have a few little housekeeping things to do before we begin. Let's get started. For the Zoom etiquette, again, for everyone to hear, make sure you stay muted. Again, this presentation will be recorded for training purposes and for the future use to the public. Please jot down any questions you do have. We will go over those at the conclusion of this training. When you do see the Q&A session, that will be the conclusion of the training. Okay, so let's get into gear for today. Our overview. So we talked about Microsoft Excel and we saw a little bit of the foundations. We also looked at about formatting and then some of the formulas that you can use that really enhance the spreadsheet that you will be able to build. Today, we're going to kind of go through those one more time all together. Because with Excel, a lot of it is just building from ground up, and you're able to use these little catches, from it comes down to the shortcuts to the formulas. All of those are going to be important when you build a spreadsheet. So today, we're going to review the basic parts of the spreadsheet. We're also going to show you how those math functions and stuff that we talked about before come into play. And then we'll look at the formulas and shortcuts. A lot of these things you just want to be able to try on your own and going through. And again, there's several videos out there that help you with any of these different aspects. But again, these are just some of the few that are real popular. And I think that you will find that it will be very helpful, throughout the process. So that's what we're going to go through today. So let's start out with the spreadsheet. Let's do that overview one more time. So we start from the beginning. When we went through, we talked about how there are rows and there are also columns. As you can see on the screen, this is where we break, that's how the spreadsheet is set up. When we talked about the spreadsheet, we also learned that the intersection of a row and a column is called a cell. And as you can see on the screen, each cell in the Microsoft Excel program has a name. For this case, column A and row 1. So A1 is the first one you would see there. And then again, that is what you can see all across the spreadsheet inside Excel. We also talked about a group of cells that are all together, which is also called a range. And a range, again, is you can highlight these cells and be able to identify by whether or not if it's a group of different numbers or different types of phrases. You can actually group these either by highlighting them, and you can sort them. A lot of those things are very popular when you deal with multiple data. But a range, again, is a group of cells that are together, just like you see here. And with ranges, you can also name them as well. In this case, I actually would like to have everybody unmute for just a moment, and if you could tell me what is the name of this range that you see here on the screen? Can anybody give me an idea?
Would it be from B to D?
Close, yep. So like you see here, you see all here, right now it's highlighted on B2, right?
Yes.
So on B2, we're taking, with this range, it starts from B2 and it goes down to the bottom right corner. And what is this bottom right corner?
D8.
D8. So again, your range on this one would be from B2, which will be in this blank here, to D8. So that's, again, you're highlighting that range, and it could be even bigger than that too. But just in this sample here, this range right here would be B2 to D8. Exactly. Good work. But that's very important though, just to be able to identify what that, if you highlighted something, what the range is identified as. In this case, B2 to D8. Good work. And let me be able to switch screens here. Okay, here we go. So we also talked about formatting. And formatting, again, very similar to what we saw in Microsoft Word, is the same principles in Microsoft Excel. Now we also have a different little ribbons that you'll see up here. This is the main one that you see in the home ribbon. And all your basic functions, from your font faces to font sizes to color, also to bold, italicize, and underline. All of those will be found right here in the home. So it's important when you're formatting, you're thinking about the styling of that spreadsheet. It helps you in the home format. You're able to then create different styles for you. And you can highlight, and we did some examples in the past videos where we can highlight a heading, we can put a color to it, we could even put a border on it. And like you see in some of these things we did stuff here. I'm going to get my annotate tool real quick and do a draw. So we talked about, we had the sizing here, and we also had these little borders right here. Remember that we dropped down and we did like an underline. We also did all kinds of stuff there. And we had, and also which was really cool, is that we can actually size up different things. We can do it by either sizing it by hitting the big A or the little a, or you can swing right here with the 11 and create, and you can go up, dropping down the drop-down list. So those are different ways you can do that kind of stuff. And you can also turn that too, which is also cool. You can also see over here on this side, you got the dollar signs. You have also percentages. You can take a lot of those things and create you can actually format those columns, and you can create columns that have dollar signs, other ones that are calculating percentages. And those that are just going to be putting a decimal inside there. We can also see right here with the semicolon there, we have that available. So again, you have lots of different options here, but formatting is very important if you're wanting to get everything uniform and actually make your point across. So that's also a very, very nice feature to have. So formatting, we have some of those in there. We also had some helpful commands. One of the big things that also we showed about is how you can use the keyboard and use some of these different keys to get around Excel. And one of those things was the enter, which again, when you hit enter, you'll move down on the spreadsheet. Using shift enter, which is also something that I learned just recently, you can actually move up again. So it's the reverse. Shift will actually be the reverse of what you actually hit the other key. So enter goes down, shift enter goes back up. Then you have your tab button on the far left of your keyboard at the top. And you can use the tab cursor to go to the right, which is pretty standard. If you're going to move from one cell to the other, you can hit tab. But if you use shift tab, you can actually go back to the left. So again, those commands actually help you get around in Excel. So that's stuff that we really highlighted, and I think it will help you as you do your spreadsheets. In one of our live examples, it was also very exciting to see that there is a difference between being on a cell versus in a cell. And when you do that, when you actually get on a cell, you're hovering over the cell. So again, you're just highlighting the cell in this case. But when you click in the cell, like you see here with this 2010, and you double click on that cell, and the cursor again will allow you to edit that data. So again, there is a difference though. When you hover on the cell, you're just highlighting it. But if you click inside the cell, you're then able to amend what the data is in there. So that's one thing we discussed as well. And then find and replace, which is one of the best things that Excel has. And there's a lot of them, but find and replace is really, really nice because you can actually replace words, find words in there and replace with others. And one of the things too is if you have one word that you're seeing a lot of inside the spreadsheet and you don't necessarily, it seems like it's not conveying your message better and you have something better, you can find all those words inside that spreadsheet by using the select, and then you can actually type in what you want to replace it with and hit replace. So all those different words can be changed out at any time across the spreadsheet or across your workbook if you're doing it all across the workbook. There's a lot of different settings inside there, but you want to make sure that you are going through and you have the different settings inside of find the select and replace as well, where you can do it even in a bigger form. But find and replace is a very nice feature. When you work with these large spreadsheets, it is a common task to need to find that specific value, and then you can change that one thing and then replace it with another. Find and replace, one to keep in mind whenever you work with these spreadsheets. We also talked about some ways that we enter formulas. Now, formulas also are very, very helpful to help speed up the process. And there are a few ways that we discussed in here. So going in here on the formulas, you can enter them manually. You know, we had pieces where you can have a big group you can have a range of numbers, say for instance, a long list. You're trying to sum up a bunch of different cells. So from B4 to B13, a range of cells there, just like we talked about the range. B4 to B13, and that's what they consider a long list. You can also do some short lists too. You can just enter the sum of certain cells if you want to. In this case, B4, B5, B6, and B7. I want to know how add those up all together. Or there's another way you can look at it. And there's the sum, and you can put it in this format. You can just add them all up together. So there's lots of ways you can enter the formulas in here. Again, you place your cursor on the first cell that you want to, or in any cell really, and then you can press that plus sign, and then you could actually click on those cells that have the numbers and add them up, and then hit enter, and that'll give you your sum. So you can manually enter them as one way. The second way is also using the insert function. Again, in the insert function, you can then do multiple things. One example we talked about was how we could count data. And using the insert function, you can then go to the formulas tab, which you see here. And you can, again, we talked about the insert function, the Autosum, which will be in here in a minute. But you can take any of these formulas and and they actually kind of give you a simplified version of selecting that and making it happen. So again, you can do those. You can, again, in this case, you can count the numbers in this range, like we talked about, the range B4 to B13, and anything that's empty, it'll ignore it. So you can just get a count of how many numbers are in that range, and then you can also do just the number of characters, which in this case, A representing the alphabet, you can do equals count A from the range B3 to B13. So you do have some different things that you can do here. And that's where all of these, and again, all these empty cells, it'll ignore it when you're doing that. So insert function, you can insert a count for some of these things. Absolutely. Now, let's look at, again, the third one. We have another one, the select function from a group. We talked about a few of these here. And they give you another one that's recently used, which is really nice. And that actually comes in play, for the ones that you use on a common basis. That's where a lot of those will be filed under. And then they have financial ones, they have text ones. Date and time is actually a very important one. And you can actually create, when you create your spreadsheet, you can actually have different formats. You can put the date and time in. So you have a lot of those formulas are going to be populating through this menu. So again, you can select from all of these as well inside Excel. The fourth one, like I said, the recently used. And again, this is, again, just what it really is. It's the actual functions that you've used most of the time. And they'll be added in here into this little menu, so you can just go right back to them easily. And we talked about one about averaging. We talked about sum, and we talked about averages in a range of cells. And then when you look at this one here, where it says average B4 to B13, it's going to take those, you're going to take that range of cells, that B4 to 13, it's going to add the list together, and then it's going to divide by the number of values that are there. So if you have 6 numbers there, it's going to add all 6 numbers, and then it's going to divide by 6 to get the average. So again, those are, some of the ways that you can go back and get recently used formulas that you really like. And this menu will allow you to do that. Again, the fourth one was the recently used button. When we look at number 5, we also look at auto functions like the Autosum, which is a very common one that is used. And again, these, when you click on it, it's also going to be used as a recently used button too if you use it. But it is a time saver. It will help you with just to get the total of what you're looking for. You can highlight the cells using Autosum, and it will give you that number right away. Didn't I mention to you that Excel is so powerful? As you can see through all this training, you can see the things that it can do for you. And a lot of those things allow you to save time. And the spreadsheets allow that. Sometimes you just got to be able to dig through and see what they have. And that was one of the principles of this training, is to let you see that there are a lot of different functions across the platform. And you're able to take these things and be able to apply them to the data that you've got. And between those two combinations, you can build a powerful spreadsheet, very much so. So those are a few ways to enter formulas along here. Now we're also going to look at how we can do a shortcut. So these formulas and shortcuts were also mentioned in one of our trainings. Now this was important too, that you can kind of do shorthand and be able to get some things out there really, really quickly by using some of those shortcuts. So some of the things that we did, We talked about about how you can do days and you can get the difference between those days and how many are in between. So this is one of the formulas that we had in here, which is really kind of cool. So if you had an end date of October 12th of 2015, and then the start date was on March 31st of 2015, you can find out how many days are in between by using this formula. Equals days, and then the days in this case, the end date and everything of October 12 was an A30, and you want to know the difference, how far back when it started on A29. And that will give you 195, which you see right here. And we do have a visual, I believe, it will also show, actually I forgot about the visual, but on here, if you do, you pick the two cells and you get the difference of what's in between. And so you can find out how many amount of days it is in between certain 2 date points, which is really, really nice. And we talked about some other basic math functions. Now, we did some of the sum, like you saw here. You can take add all the numbers in the list, and including the negative numbers, and get your sum. So that was one of the basic ones that we talked about. And also there was also one that was a you can also get subtraction just as well. You have 2 cells that you want to be able to subtract from. Subtract the values from A2 from A3. You can do that. So these are some of the basic ones that we had along the way. And then it comes down to multiplying. Multiplying too. Take 2 cells and multiply them using, you can use the asterisk as well. That's one of the things that are able to use in Excel is to take the asterisk and multiply 2 numbers. And then when you're dealing with a range of numbers, you can use the product feature and multiply the range A2 to A4. And that'll multiply all the numbers. And then you have the final one. You can multiply the numbers in the range, and then that multiplies that result by 2. So we added a 2 in here because the comma is adding another value in here. So you have equal product, range of A2 to A4, you can get that, and then multiply that result by 2. So those are some of your key formulas that you found in here. And then dividing numbers, same thing. You have the forward slash that you can then use to divide numbers, like A2 divided by A3. Those are in there. And then we also talked about some of the counting features, like you can calculate the smallest and the largest number in a range. Using the min formula and the max formula, you could take a range of cells and find out what the minimum value is in that specific range, and then the max value. So again, this is counting and calculating the largest number. And then you can also calculate the smallest, the second smallest, by using the small feature in the large. So now you kind of see all these different ways that you can do shortcuts in some of these other formulas. And these are just a few other ones that we use. I mean, again, these are not all, the first ones were more popular, but these are some other ones that you can also convert formulas to into something you'd like, for instance, how many days to hours, or years to days, or even gallons to liters. I mean, you can use Excel in so many ways to create that feature. So it's important, though, that you could take that and you can use these numbers and then convert them, from the gallons to liters to get your result. And some other shortcuts we have using some of the keyboard features, like if you're using Windows, you're going to want to look at this column here. And then these are some of the common ones that you'll use. If you're using the Macintoshes, the Apple type systems, you're going to be using the Mac column here. All of these are doing the same thing. They just run a little bit different on the operating system. But this is just some of the ways that you can actually look at some of all this data and then be able to formulate it in the way you want to. So those are just some of the other formulas and shortcuts. Again, just a continuation here, like the control plus apostrophe. It will copy formulas from a cell above into an active cell or in the formula bar. Those are some other ones. These are a little bit more advanced, but again, once you kind of get going with Excel, these sometimes may actually come in to help you all the way. F9 in this case, the function, and then function F9 in the Apple side will calculate all your open workbook sheets. So you can actually use that as well. Again, more videos on this stuff all around on the web, but again, these are just some of the shortcuts that you can use when you're dealing with formulas. And then more counting type formulas here, that like we talked about the count A for the alphabet, or when it comes down to more characters, you can use that kind of stuff with a range. We also have, there's other ones that can do specific things. In this case, like this, for instance, the count if range A2 to A7 with multiplying by A4. So you can count the value of the entries within a specific range for the value located in cell A4. So look at these carefully. You can actually get results by also combining and using the COUNTIF formula. So lots of different ways, all the way around. And today is going to be a little bit shorter version today because we really have covered so much over the last 3 videos. I think you're going to have a lot to work with in this beginning series. But one of the best things about it is that when we look back at all of this stuff, we look in, and I highly encourage you to go back and check out those videos. They are on the Parks and Rec YouTube channel. And it's important, though, to know when you go back to the basics parts of the spreadsheet, think of that kind of stuff as just like we would do in Word. When we looked at the basic menus, you can take all of those things and work between the menus. All of those things, the formula menu versus the formatting, the home menu. And also there's also all different kinds of the insert menu too. You can insert different things too. But the basics though really are important. As we start from the beginning, we grew up and we went through all of these processes, and then you add in the formulas and other shortcuts. You can see how you can make a spreadsheet work for you. That's the part that's very important. So we looked at those basics today, and we kind of highlighted again from the beginning, the formatting, what a cell does, what a range does. All of those work hand in hand, as you can see, because a cell builds on, and creates ranges. A group of cells is a range. And then that range, you can actually create formulas to calculate the data that's in those ranges. So we saw a lot of stuff over this series that helps you build from one lesson to the next lesson to the next lesson. And then again, we went through some of these basic math functions, the averaging, the sums, when you talk about those things together, you can use multiple of these in one spreadsheet if you want to. That's the beauty of Excel. You can take the data and use it however you feel is necessary to convey your point. And then at the end, we finally showcased more about the handy formulas and those shortcuts. Not all of them will be used for you. However, there are common ones that you see, and there's way more than just that list. That's just some of the ones I thought would be kind of neat to highlight in this series, to at least get you started, and at least to see what you can take away with putting some data together and then building on that spreadsheet before. But we have now come to the conclusion of the training, and then I want to open up the floor for any questions at all about anything that we've saw in Excel. I really highly encourage you to go back to look at the videos, review the basics, and then build on that again. It takes practice, and the more you work with Excel, the easier it gets. Just like riding a bike, you have to continue to practice with it every time in order to get better at it. But I do want to open up for questions and comments if there's anything I can go over, anything that we've done before. The floor is yours.